Like within Solana, like DAA is pretty much a beast and an OG. So I was just kind of trying to bring some traditional finance and business to that.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Wave. Today we are here with Nicky from Degenerate Academy, the CEO himself. You want to introduce yourself, Nicky?
Yeah, we'll do. I go by NickyScanz. My actual name is Nick. I am the CEO of Degenerate Academy, but also Degen Labs Inc. and Opal.
Cool. And then we're also here joined by my brother Wookie. You want to introduce yourself as well?
Yeah, I'm Wookie, unbiased DAA Maxi, and co-host of The Wave. But it's a pleasure to be here with you. I've been looking forward for this interview for a while now, so really hyped to get into this one.
Absolutely. We're excited to get into this. So without further ado, let's just kick it right in and let's just start about talking a little bit about yourself. What's your background looking like? You mentioned that you're the CEO of multiple companies. Tell us about that a little bit more.
Yeah, I'll happily go into my background a bit, and then the multiple companies are all just kind of under Degen Labs Inc. Right, so let's not oversell me too much. But yeah, my background comes from pretty traditional business. I was a consultant for about 3 or 4 years, primarily in the nonprofit space, and then from there you can see I slowly worked my way here. From there, I moved to SaaS, like software as a service, and then from there somehow found myself in Web3. Started with DAA as really like just a volunteer trying to help out, something I thought was pretty cool as I started to just owning like $100 worth of Sol tops and just interested in the NFTs and the community and trying to help out. From there, I moved up to being a mod, really like the lowest level mod, and then just kept trying to get more involved in the organization of the team and running the business and trying to bring a lot of like traditional, business and finance to a Web3 company that was, pretty massive in this space, right? Like within Solana, like DAA is pretty much a beast and an OG. So I was just kind of trying to bring some traditional finance and business to that. And I think that, what I was accomplishing and the advice I was giving was going noticed and kind of kept climbing the ranks from there. And now I'm CEO. And I think, we've had pretty epic few months since that started.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a pretty sweet journey, going from community member to CEO. And I think that for the people that have been here and have witnessed the rise of NickyScanz, we do appreciate you, man, and we think you're in a position where you can help the most, and I think it's reflecting, like, maybe not on floor price, but we don't really care about that. That will come with time. But I do want to ask you, so did you start like your NFT Solana trajectory with Degenapes, or did it start before?
Yeah, it started with Degenapes. I owned like a small amount of ETH and a small amount of Sol, and I was didn't have any NFTs at the time. I think maybe I had like one ETH NFT that someone like sent me, and I had a good friend set me up with a Solit. I don't know if you guys know what a Solit is. It was
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, it was the first like Solana wallet. It basically looked like a Microsoft Excel page. Like it was it was horrific, and you couldn't actually see your tokens or your NFTs. It was just like numbers. It was not normie friendly at all. And I attempted to mint DAA with a Solit and failed epically. Not even close. There's just no way Solit was going to handle that with millions of people and bots trying to get the original DAA mint. I didn't stand a chance. But luckily, I had made a backdoor deal with my good friend who was getting me into it. That it was like, if either one of us mints more than one, and the other one ends up getting rugged and gets nothing, we will get it to the other person like at mint price. So he handed one over at for 6 Sol, the original mint price. Now 2+ years ago. And yeah, that was the start of the journey from there.
That's crazy. I think you had a very similar experience to Wombat here.
Exactly.
He
I had the
had a
same
mint attempt. Yeah.
with Solit and failed.
Yeah, I think Phantom was the move. I think people who used Phantom in like a beefy computer. Oh, I forgot this point. It was Solit on my phone. So like web browser, Solit while I was at a wedding. Yeah, I didn't stand a chance. I was thinking back, like knowing what I know now, like I was hopeless.
Yeah, I was thinking about it because I actually I was able to mint on Solid, and I actually minted 12 apes, and I
Don't
sent
tell me
some
that.
Soul over to Wombat for him to mint one, and I called all my friends. Man, it was like such a hype event, like the mint. I remember like the first day when we were supposed to mint, I had like 4 or 5 friends that had never been exposed to crypto, and I'm just like, listen to me, dude. You gotta mint this. I send them some soul, and we were all just hanging out on Discord, waiting for the mint to happen. It was delayed to another day, and half of them bailed. Like they never went ahead and minted, and the half that did, they all were like super happy they did.
Yeah, I'm sure it was a crazy month, 2 month, 3 months after mint for sure. And the fact that like we're still here and have a lot of the same community members and a lot of the same team is pretty wild this much later in the game. Um, yeah, it's been wild. It's always nice to go back to day one.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
For sure. And while we're on the topic of history, you know me, I love DAA history. I'm a huge fan of that. You want to tell us a little bit about like why you think DAA has some historical prominence? Do you think that when people think of Solana, they think DAA? Like, what are your kind of thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think it's pretty unquestionable now, or like unquestioned that DAA, in my opinion, like is the Solana NFT. They're pretty synonymous at this point. Going all the way back to Mono deciding where he wanted to mint a collection on, and like talking with Solana, and the candy machine literally being created for the DAA mint. It was the birth of Solana NFTs, and I don't think other collections would even like combat that. I mean, there's a lot of historical collections, but I think they'd all agree that this is when like the mass audience of new wallets coming on to mint a crazy collection, similar to how it was on ETH. DAA was the first time for that. So like I don't think that that's deniable, and I think that provenance really helped us, be successful, keep community members, and survive for 2 years. Especially when we launched some things that people didn't love, some things that people did love, but it definitely, I think we got a longer leash because of the provenance of it. You know what I mean? People were very hesitant to be like, oh, I don't like the direction of this. Like, I'm just going to bail, because they know that like we're synonymous with Solana. And what that's done is given us longer, like a traditional startup would have, without a crazy community that's getting on you about things. It's given us a longer leash to make mistakes and then learn from those mistakes, right? Like I said, the same way that a traditional company would get to do without, people thinking that they're all investors. That's when you have thousands of holders, it can be a blessing and a curse, right? Because you have, 4, 5, 6,000 people rooting for, your success, but also they view themselves as a piece of this thing more so than just a collector, which I would agree with. But at the end of the day, like the team has to run a company for what we think is best, long term, and not it doesn't necessarily always align what like a short term holder goal would be. Um, that being said, on the provenance side, like we needed that to allow us to get to the point we're at now. And now with like V2 coming up, it's kind of all about the next stage of DAA. It's like our provenance allowed us to get to this point and like learn from mistakes, but now it's about building a real company, right? Like now we're trying to build a juggernaut, and we have like all the resources and the time and the knowledge that we need for that, right? So we got pretty far on the history, but like now it's all about like, we want to be like an IP monster. We want to have IP licensing deals that compete with, brands and games and characters that you all see and utilize on a daily basis. And I know we have the chops for it. We don't have to get too much into it, but even just like the Coinbase example, like going from being, historically all Solana to hopping over to Coinbase where nobody knows us and being like a feature collection and drop on their brand new, chain is insane. It just shows that even without the provenance, the characters, if we put, the work into it and create like AAA level work, like people will buy in because they're attached to the characters.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for
I
sure.
couldn't agree more with you on that one. And you touched on various points. I actually wanted to dive a little bit deeper on, but just to start out, I do wonder. Well, we read on X every single day, Monolith is going to be a household name, and I think we all agree at this point because the dude is amazing. Oh, what's it like working with him?
Oh yeah. Mono is a character. I talk to him obviously all day, every day. Without revealing his exact time zone, it's a little different than my own. So the timing can be funky, but he's a character. I think anyone who is as talented as him, he's kind of a savant in a way, to be honest. Like what he'll create in 15 minutes, sometimes you're like, there's no way that you just did that. Yeah, he's epic. But there are things that come with that. Like he is a perfectionist, like beyond belief, to the point where like from a traditional like business sense, it can get super frustrating because he'll create all of this content when the community is demanding more content, and I'm like, Mono, this all rocks, and he's like, no, I hate all of it, or I have to change, or there'll be things that he pulls out of a folder, and I'm like, dude, that's incredible, like where was that? He's like, oh yeah, I scrapped it. So I'm like, you like got up in the morning, went to your work desk, spent 8 hours making this, and then didn't even show us. Like, just like, no, I don't like this actually, and then throws it away and we never see it. So like it can be pretty frustrating on that sense because he truly doesn't care that it's like we can use this to, prop up the brand or generate revenue. If he doesn't think it's perfect or even fit, it doesn't matter. Like it's not for him. It's like truly an artist first, which can be sometimes an amazing thing, and sometimes I'm like, dude, like this is so good. Can we please just ship this?
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword for sure. For sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so let's dig a little bit deeper into the art side of things and just talk a little bit about like the collection itself, like the AA and Degen Drop Bears. So one of the big questions I had for you is you guys are trying to build a brand, obviously, and it's done very well here on Solana. Could you go a little bit into detail on how the brand is like pivoting or continuing to go forward with these characters in like a Web 2 scenario or in other areas of Web 3?
Yeah, I think the pivot, it's less so of a pivot and more so finally having clear direction. It's like, okay, where are we trying to get to? Um, and with every time I answer this question, it ends up being way too long. And I listen back, so I'll try to do a little bit shorter. But the direction in the short term is pretty simple. It's create a bunch of animated content, create a lot of shareable memes and GIFs and videos that can be on Instagram and TikTok and all over Twitter. And then once people go to check out, kind of what's behind this, like where are these cool characters that are moving around that are very high quality coming from, they'll see a gamified world a bit, right? And that's kind of the whole purpose of V2 is when you come check us out, having these opals that you can mine, and these bidding wars that you're seeing happening with these opals, which which is essentially a point system, and kind of falling into that engagement and that gamification of trying to acquire the best traits and acquire the most opals and really kind of enjoying it with everyone. So having something to come to that you can enjoy, and again, I'm going to emphasize the word like gamification of every system. That's really important, is that everything is gamified. So that's what's going on short term as like, reoccurring revenue generator, engagement, gamification. That's the short term. All of this will remain and continue to get built up as we have, more time, money, resources, devs, etc. And that will always remain. But the more time we have in this, the more we can build up like the value of the brand and the value of the IP. And as we go along, even though the market sentiment has changed, and even though you can talk about floor price or price of SOL or whatever, we still continue to level up with the partners that we work with. So you can say like, oh, we're down in some ways, but in other ways, like we just did a drop with Coinbase. Like that's insane. And now I have, I had another meeting today. I just had a friend text me that works for, I can't say, but like another exchange. And they're like, oh, I might be interested in like doing something with you, like at the same, like similar to what Coinbase did. We've had in the last year, we've had 2 production studios who just reach out to us about a TV show. You know what I mean? Even though, sentiment maybe in Web3 isn't as great, the value of the brand has actually been boosted over this time. So if we can continue to climb up that ladder, I don't think we're that far away from like when we're starting to do IP licensing deals that are, and I mean this in like the most respectful way possible, but are bigger than the Web3 space is at all, right? Keeping in mind, like caveat to that, Solana is our home, Web3 space is our origins, and we'll always use all that to our advantage. But we think we can expand the brand far beyond that, and already have started.
Yeah, there definitely has to be a Web 2 aspect of branding that has to go on in order to reach that exponential growth that we're all looking for sure. So we were talking with Wambet the other day about the power of Web 2, like combining Web 2 and Web 3, and I think Pudgy Penguins did a pretty good job with this at some
Agree.
point. They were doing like toys and plushies and all this, and they're really pushing the boundaries of what a Web 3 company traditionally is. How do you see DAA doing this sort of things? Like, since I guess it's not a concern at all because I love the brand more than anything, but since I don't think DAA is like kid friendly, for example, because it's like we got an aspect of like an edge to us. How would you tackle that sense of integration to Web 2?
Yeah, I don't think we have to be kid friendly, right? But we need to be at least teen plus friendly.
Yeah.
Even something like first of all, the only company that can truly get away with anything is South Park, and we're not South Park. So when someone says like, "Oh, well, South Park," and like, we're not South Park. They're one of one. Nobody can do what they do. But like keeping it to like Family Guy or below, or even like Rick and Morty or below, there are 14, 15, 16-year-olds that are watching those shows, and that's okay. And like as long as we can stay within that, which sometimes we don't, which we've been working on, it's like, okay, we have to stay within that region, because if we're doing anything like comics or TV or toys, or I talk about us wanting to go to Comic-Con for next year, right? We need to stay within that niche, because we do not want to cut off like the under 18 niche, because I think people that are 15, 16 can really enjoy like our IP, to be honest. Speaking of Comic-Con, obviously I saw that's what Pudgy did. And I think it's a little bit early for mass producing like toys and plushies and all that. I don't know if the audience is quite big enough yet, but the goal is to, get there next year for San Diego and be like and I've been using this term when referring to us, like be a Comic-Con worthy brand by the time we get there. And that means making sure all our animations are very shareable. They're all over Twitter. They're all over Instagram. Instagram is very not Web3 friendly. So we've been very careful just to be like, this is the animation. That's it. That's all we talk about. Like, this is this. And then when you come check us out, you'll see, yeah, there is, our foundation is Solana, right? And there is some, light gamification there as well. But yeah, I think we're on track to get to that point where we are worthy of being a booth at Comic-Con for sure.
Yeah, that was a great answer. So yeah, no,
Thanks,
I
guys.
mean, honestly, you're right. There is a big audience in the 15-year-old, 16-year-old, under 18 space in general. You mentioned that 15-year-old, 16-year-olds are watching Family Guy. I can tell you, I personally watch Family Guy on some occasions, usually through YouTube Shorts. Like I look at clips on it and it pops up on my feed. That's a really powerful tool, I think, to reach that specific audience.
Mm-hmm.
And in general, before this, you also mentioned that you want to reward community participation through gamification, right? And I guess that kind of leads us to Opals and the Opal Inc. So could you talk a little bit about that and how that's kind of tied in with DAA and drop bears?
I think everyone likes to feel rewarded. I think people even like points, even if there's not a way to spend those points yet. I know that I feel this way. I know the community feels this way. I know other communities feel this way. So Opal and the tech behind Opal have allowed us to, provide an on-chain solution and system that gives you that, that kick of like, I'm earning daily rewards without all the garbage that comes with a real liquid market and token. Because like we're not a gambling platform. We're not an investing platform. We're in the IP business. So getting into there, especially as a US company, is just a completely like unnecessary risk. So we want people to come in and enjoy Opals the same way you would enjoy currency in a video game, being that it's worthless outside of that game, but you still value it and want it because you want to participate with your friends and community members as well. So having those Opals and having them tie into, the system with the auctioning of these traits that people are going to love, and it's going to be gamified. And then obviously we're going to continue to add additional layers to that. But I think people knowing that the promise here is that we're building the IP and that we're going to make this fun and engaging. We are not promising, right, that there's the value of Opals will go up. They can't, because there's no market for them. They're just an in-game currency. The same way, like, Madden or EA or whatever is not going to say, oh, my, the value of your FIFA points are going to go up, right? That's not the point. The point is to enjoy it in game. It's not to view that piece as like an investment. It's all gamification. Now on the actual like Opal LLC, which we're now calling Opal Industries, we got that website name, so which looks pretty sick. We've seen how successful it's been with us even before like our actual Harambe auction house has gone up. So now this is simple and people love it. And it's on chain. So it's definitely Web3 in a simplistic way. So we're like, we should offer this to others. There are like some Web3 teams that we're talking to that it's like an obvious fit, and we're trying to create as close to a turnkey solution as possible. And those will be great. And like, that's going to be exactly what we're going to use to start probably for the first couple of years of the Opal Industries company. But the goal is eventually when crypto starts to become less scary to the masses and like Web2 companies, that it's like, okay, like this is exciting again. And like, I'm not scared of this anymore. How can I dip my toes in? And a lot of companies, they come in and the first person knocking at the door that's trying to take advantage of a situation is someone who makes a token and who market makes. And then they come in and everyone, they get a bunch of wealthy people to buy up, the token for their launch. And then the token crashes when all the investors sell it. And now such and such Web2 company is now very sad and is like, this was a mistake. Crypto is evil. We need to get out of this. So we're trying to provide like an alternative to that. So if a company is looking to come in here and get interested in Solana, it's like, here, you can use a non-liquid point system. So now your customers or your clients can feel rewarded. It can all be traceable on chain. And the two of you obviously know the benefits of having a point system on chain versus in some arbitrary, website system where anything can be changed without anyone knowing that it was changed. So they'll come on, they can do that and know that they still maintain a level of control, and they're removing all of the yuckiness that can sometimes be associated with this industry.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think you described that perfectly. You hit the nail on the head on that one. I do want to take a step back to the Web2 aspect of the whole situation, and take a look at the IRL like events that you have on pipeline. Like how is that looking in order to target the community side of things?
So I have a different view of IRL events than most people in this space. I've kind of been preaching it for a while, and I think it's starting to hit home a little bit. And I'm not saying it's being proven completely correctly, because there are parts of my feeling on it that are kind of lame. I view any IRL event as something that doesn't necessarily have, at least for DAA, right? There are other collections that are much more based on IRL events, like MonkeyDAO, for instance. At least for DAA, I have not seen that there's exactly an ROI, right? As a business or a startup, there's not like a money spent and then, okay, here's the return on that. Instead, it's just really fun and cool and awesome, and everyone enjoys it, right? And that is great. But I would rather have our money, time, and resources be spent on building up our world and our lore and the gamification and Opals and V2 and Elders. Like, that's where the focus is. The next like potential, IRL thing is obviously this upcoming breakpoint. Right now we have nothing planned. Right now our plan is to get V2 out and to make sure it's all working properly. Our plan was to get, Elder crates out, which they are now out. There's a large dev lift on that. There's still more dev lift to do on V2, and this is all happening in parallel to the actual Harambe auction house has to get built as well. So if we can get V2 out and it's working properly and we're getting the amount of turnover, as in people coming from V1 to V2 with our incentive system, or even beyond the projections that we're hoping for, then we can kind of last minute talk about planning something for, an IRL event upcoming, specifically, for Breakpoint. But if not, it's just not going to be a priority. We need to prioritize, what actually builds the company up.
Fair. I think that's a very fair point. You're focusing on what's the most important thing right now, and IRL might come later down. That's fine. If not, well, that's fine as well. It's a luxury. Yeah, that's what it is. Sure. Absolutely. And you did touch on the Elder drop bear crates that we've been waiting for. I think we've all seen them by now, and they look insane. The last one, the general that dropped, is my personal favorite so far. I think it looks super clean with the Solana Vipers. What can you tell us about the crates that haven't been revealed yet? Like, are we in for some surprises, or
Yeah,
what
so
is your
there
take on
are.
those?
So from the ones that are left, there is one other custom that you guys should be seeing soon. Depends when it's open, but it sounds like this week it'll get open. I've been looking at it for months now, so it is sick. It is sick. I was blown away when I first saw it a while back. So that'll be soon. The other ones are like the original Elders look. So the idea is the non-customs like are directly tied to the lore. So like those are like the actual Elders that brought us, that brought the drop bears, to the, the Dingus Forest, the Dingus Forest as we call it. And then the customs are up like a play on that. That's like an ode to the holder, really, at the end of the day, and not as much lore focused. So you have the the actual Elders, and then you got the customs as well. So there'll be the rest of the main Elders will be the color variations of what you guys have seen, and then there is the one more custom that hasn't been revealed, and then the third custom the holder is kind of holding on to as a play. So we'll see if he decides to design it, later in the game, or maybe he'll want somebody else to design it.
I think I have a pretty good idea of who that mysterious holder might be, to be honest. And
Yeah.
I think it is a pretty good play. Could be.
Yeah.
And so pretty much right now you're completely focused on IP. Like, man, honestly, I want to ask you so many questions because I love DAA like so much. I really haven't had a chance to actually get to know a lot of holders like in person. Unfortunately, that's why I was tapping onto the IRL things. But do you know, like, for a fact that multiple DAA holders are going to be there in Breakpoint? Like, is that a good place to meet holders and just get to know the community firsthand?
Yeah, very likely. I probably met like 15 or 20, like, and I don't just like not like there's hundreds of people out there, even maybe 1,000 plus that are actual holders, but like people that are like diehard DAA, probably like 15 to 20 while I was there last year, probably be about the same this year. But there will always be DAA holders at any Solana type event or crypto event in general, to be honest. There's a lot of people that have us from Mint Day that are Ethereum people, right? Because it had a very large reach. So yeah, but if you're looking to connect like IRL with, like very, very invested in the community, like community members, yeah, you'll for sure find some at Breakpoint.
Sweet. Yeah, I'll definitely. It's hard with work and everything, but I'm gonna try my best to go there. We should definitely look at flights, Wombat.
We gotta take a look. But yeah, no, that was super cool. The one Solana event that I've gone to, which is the New York Hacker House, I met a bunch of DAA holders. Some of them just knew me from the time I worked on the council for DAA, and that was a great experience. I wanted to touch on the drip channel that you guys are working with right now, and what kind of your approach is with that. I know obviously I'm a huge fan of drip. I see mass adoption for drip in a very near future. Could you tell us a little bit about your approach as to like the art for it, and like what kind of your approach in the future will be?
It's the biggest audience that we're able to reach on like a reoccurring basis, and I don't think that can be like undersold. It's actually pretty insane, and I think they just drained some more bots, and we went from like 300K to like 250K, but like 250K, like, are there 250K people like even in crypto right now? You know what I mean? Like, that's an insane number, and they're being pruned, so that like a large majority of it is legitimate users. So it's a absolutely wildly large audience, and I think the same way that like a Web2 brand could dip their toes in, with like Opal, like I think you're out of your mind if you're like not trying to get in front of people that own wallets and are active like through Drip. It's so obvious. Like, why wouldn't you want people connecting their wallet to your platform, getting free art, engaging? Like, it's and it's just so many people. And so for us, we bring out the big guns for it. Minnie is our 2D artist. She does a lot of the trait design. She did stuff with the original collection. She did the comic book art. She's OG, and she's as good as it gets. So that's who we have dedicated to the drips. People say drip drop. I hate that. People say drip drop.
What's an alternative name for
on
it?
that one?
Yeah, we'll have to bug them on that one. And then kind of for upcoming plans with them, we are toying and playing with the idea of like the comic book direction, but I will say that we're looking at like creating comics in another in another way, like on another platform, and then having like art, like using comic book art and almost using Drip as like an advertising platform, which I think, and again, I'm not going to tell Vib how to run Drip. He clearly is doing a better job than I would because he's crushing it. But like I view that as like a massive like marketing potential platform because there's so many users. So like if we release something like a comic book and we have the art that's already there and we put it out on Drip, with a link to like go check out the actual comic books, it kind of like kills three birds with one stone kind of situation, right? Because we're getting it to all the audience. The audience wants to collect these pages and this art anyway. And there's like a direct, revenue source as well for people who want to, go out and outright purchase, the full book. So yeah, it's a really epic way I think that we can use Drip going forward. And if it's successful, we'll keep going. We'll keep pushing it because the idea is hopefully it'll pay for itself. And then we can just keep going with this in perpetuity and start building up the lore even more.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's always susceptible to change to whatever demands, whatever's demanded at the moment, But I completely agree. I actually tweeted a while back about the marketing aspect of Drip, and I couldn't agree more with what you just said. I do want to know, like, what are some of the challenges, and this is just topping subjects, but what are some of the challenges that you've faced now that you've become a CEO of a massive Web3 company? Like, is it what you expected, or is it harder, or what's your take on all this?
It's not too different because I had experienced it for a while. I've been here for a bit now, so it's kind of what I expected. I would say the toughest part is the balance. It's balancing, the traditional like business building startup mentality, and long-term outlook with making sure that you have these group of a few thousand people that have been waiting and so loyal, and like you want them to be satisfied and feel like they're like belonging to this community has been beneficial to them in the long run. So it can be a battle sometimes because it's like I catch myself sometimes being like, we got to just push this thing out. Like, let's just get this out. And then the team will push back on me sometimes and be like, no, like this is not ready yet. Or like, why rush this out? It's such a big piece. And I have to be like, you're right. Let's not rush it out. So it's really tough. I don't even know what to compare it to. I don't think there is a comparison for like a startup having to deal with, and I mean this in a good way and a bad way, that many people that like kind of want things now. Because if you have, and again, let's make a clarification here, like holders are not investors, right? Everyone knows that because holding an NFT is not equity. But I think the only comparison I can think of is like, if a startup has like investors, right? Like traditional like VCs and angels and all that. But in that situation, like usually they have, that's their job is to be out doing this. And like, it's, they'll be invested in a bunch of different companies and it's, they may only check in every couple months. Like we are, again, double-edged sword in a situation where we have people checking in, every couple hours, right? So when there's something we want to push out, like, trust me, like I feel it. When the community's like, this has been too long, this needs to get released. Like I feel that every day. Which sometimes can cloud judgment. But at the same time, like better that than having no audience or nobody that cares at all, right?
Of course, yeah.
No,
Yeah,
honestly,
it's
that's a challenge that a lot of, NFT companies are facing right now is, especially back in the bull market and especially now as well, is that you are expected to bring something out within seconds of mint, within seconds of an announcement. It's always a rush because I've always thought of it like this, like a month in the NFT space is like a week or sorry, backwards. A month in the Web 2
Yeah.
space is a week in the NFT space. Like time flies much quicker here. But I think that when we're following this track, we lose sight of what's important, and that's quality. And a lot of people are pushing out things that aren't quality just because they need to push something. They feel like they need to push something out, and I feel like that's a mistake that is happening way too much.
Yeah, it happens a lot. And I got to be honest, half the time we do it to ourselves because we'll post something out there because we know everyone is hungry for something, right? So we'll post something out there way too early. And then I'll hit everybody with the couple days away or a couple weeks or a couple months. And the reality is like, I just need to start being more honest that like dev work. So we have the mono side, which is the artwork, but even that is more predictable than dev work. So the artwork has to be perfect, and there's a lot of perfectionism that goes into that. But like the dev work, we are in a brand new technology in space. Um, we try to, devs try to come up with timelines on things, but they're really just doing the best they can. Things are breaking, and it's not like when something breaks here, you can just like, oh, there's 20 years of research and examples and people that I can talk to about this. It's like, oh yeah, this is actually the first time anyone has ever built what I'm building right now. So like, it doesn't exist. So I think we need to be more careful with and this is big time my fault. We need to be more careful with like what we put out there and making sure that we give like devs ample time to get to the date something's supposed to be, and then like troubleshoot, and then when you inevitably find errors, like having time to fix that. And if for holders that are listening right now, you might think I'm referring to like some specific releases. I am actually not. I'm everything we're working on right now is actually like elders are out there now. Like V2, like it's all moving along quickly. I'm very much speaking in general terms.
Yeah. No, I respect you for, owning up to that, and I think that that's a great outlook on things.
so yeah, for all the holders listening, y'all heard Nicky. He needs a little bit more pressure to keep pumping
No,
out
no, no.
stuff and deadlines.
I'll send him a DM.
Talking about holders, Nicky, like, are there some holders that, whether it's before your time as a CEO or just pretty much whenever, like, who do you look up to within the holder base of DAA?
I am more like blown away sometimes by like how committed some people are, like the amount of time and effort they put into it. Like some of the obvious examples, like I view Erwin as almost like an employee now, which is like sick. Like I literally like when I need a GIF made, I'm just like, or a meme made, I'll just tag him and it's there in like 3 minutes. And sometimes you can almost take him for granted because you're
I
just
can't
like,
believe he's not on payroll yet.
no, no. But funny. I mean, funny you say that. Like so much of the team has come from the community at this point. Um, I think four of us were originally community members, um, including myself, obviously. So it's not like there's not a path. It's already happened a few times, and I think that's the best way to build a company. To be honest, like we're lucky that we get to do that. Um, Mapey is an obvious one. She's a rock star. Um, Raya, I mean, it's like just constant like Twitter content and engagement. Like that is so beneficial to us. So like maybe like putting out, graphics nonstop and constantly helping to explain things. Wombat, obviously you doing the same all the time, constantly being there to like help people and explain things. Like you can't pay for that level, of help and support. Like it's amazing. Um yeah, I mean there's so many. Even I can't believe I'm giving it a shout out, but even Demon Collector, who is the worst, and I'm saying this to your face, you are the worst. And it's so toxic, God. But like the constant like engagement and constant like talking us up publicly and tweeting about us, even if it's sometimes negative, most of the time it's positive. Today, like when we were doing like the Elder Crate hatch, like this dude who fuds us all the time is in Mint Squad, like screaming to get people in for the Elder Crate hatch. You know what I mean? Like you can't manufacture that. Like that has to be organic. Yeah, there's so many. I'll put Bobby in the same spot, but Bobby doesn't. Luckily, Bobby never fuds us ever. He only just fuds everybody else. But yeah, like you literally can't pay for help. It's that good. It's just organic, and it like, it's how this many years in and through different cycles, we're still able to get like, honestly, I think very good engagement on a lot of what we do.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. The community for DAA, as many of the NFT communities that I've been a part of, top of the line, to be honest with you. It's incredible how active people still are, and how people really care about the brand, about the NFTs, about the art, about everything really. Like you said, sometimes there's FUD, but they have good intentions.
Yeah, people just care a lot, and they care in different ways. And like I said earlier, as much as I'll complain about holders sometimes, like imagine having no one care or just be silent, or literally like we were just trying to build up DAA and we post something and no one said a thing. Like that would be awful. So it's kind of puts things in perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, and it definitely helps to have that nostalgic value. The best for me, I'll say it. I'll fight anybody that disagrees. The best art in the space, like branding on point. Like honestly, I think it's a matter of time. I have no doubt about it.
Yeah, I agree. We will. This IP will get to where it needs to go. We're on the right track. Like I said, we keep climbing that ladder. As for the floor conversations, it's like I've said, it's I mean, we're building up a brand right now. Right now there is roadmaps out there for other companies, especially in the Web2 space, that have been very successful. And there's like a roadmap set, and it doesn't need to be fixed, right? Like you don't see like Pokemon, who I love dearly. You don't see them out there trying to pump the value of a Charizard. They would never do that. You know what I mean? What instead that they're doing is constantly putting out content, and what they're doing is they're building a new fan base. Every year they have more new fans. Every year their audience grows, now 20 something years later. So like for us, we just want to keep growing the audience, growing how much people care. And if our items grow in value or go up and down during that, like, that's great. Like that's part of it. But that's what our focus needs to be. If you focus on treating the NFTs and the IP like it's only a tradable asset, that the purpose of it is to make money here and there, like on short trades, like I think that's a recipe for failure. If that was a recipe for success, then why wouldn't all these juggernauts that have come before us in the Web2 space, why wouldn't they have done that then?
Yeah,
that's the perfect way to look at it.
Exactly. No, to be honest with you, I think that's a great way to go about it. You mentioned Pokemon. I'm a huge fan of Pokemon, and they built an incredible IP throughout years of, games, merchandise, cards, everything, right? And I think that the strategy that they're going forward with, especially in all this merchandise, is the best, top of the line.
Yeah, and there's countless examples, but they happen to hit home with me and be my favorite. But yeah, like I said, the groundwork is laid, the roadmap is laid. It's not broken. Let's not try to reinvent it.
Yeah, before we wrap this up, because we're nearing the end here, is there anything you'd like to say or speak about?
Yeah, we'll leave you with just like V2 and Harambe talk. I'll make it quick. I know I just yelled at myself for this earlier, but it's coming up soon. It has been. I'm actually a little tired right now because it's been late nights with the squad. And the Boots guys have been. I guess shout out to the Boots guys. They've been insane. They care about this truly as much as we do, which is crazy because we really care about it. We're working to get it out to everybody, ASAP. And we think we have something that is. We think we have something that that is so good that others are going to copy it. And I mean that like in the best way possible. Like it's going to be, we view it as very engaging, and the perfect level of gamification. And kind of happy to see that. I think that it's putting the space in a very positive direction and getting away from a lot of the negative items that can come along. And I'm excited to see others be like, oh, why don't we just do this path as well?
I'm hyped. Can't wait for V2.
Super bullish.
Yeah, now before we end it, I've got one more question for you, and I know that everyone is dying to know this. When Pit the Panda custom?
Oh no. That is you're talking to the wrong person. That is a Pit and Mono conversation. I cannot get in the middle of that. I like both of them. We just keep, it's like if you have good friends that maybe aren't friends with each other as much anymore. It's like, I'm going to separately be friends with both of you. I'm not interested in the custom drama.
All right. Well, I appreciate your time. This is a great conversation. Thanks again. And yeah, I think we can wrap it up here.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Nicky. Appreciate you, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Perfect. See you guys next time.